Tonight, police say a military veteran in his 90s is dead after a carjacking.
Officers are still looking for the suspect, but they have found a key piece of evidence. This happened just after noon outside an assisted living apartment complex off of Westbury Parkway near South Gessner and West Belfort. Troy Kless joins us live from HPD headquarters tonight with the latest on this investigation. Troy.
Well, Cheryl and Marcelino, the victim's car was found at an apartment complex about 3 miles away from where the shooting took place. Now, at that scene is where we're told that many witnesses saw the tragedy unfold.
Sad, upset, frustrated. I mean, you're attacking elderly people, middle of the day.
Rod Boson lives right next to the Lone Star Living Complex off of Westbury Parkway. He was in his backyard the moment the fatal confrontation happened.
I heard the argument, the commotion. I could kind of see through the picket fence, but I just saw bodies moving. I couldn't make out any description, I couldn't see any faces or anything. I heard arguing, men arguing. The next thing I know, I heard a gunshot, so I ducked back into my garage.
Houston police say the victim, a man in his 90s, was carjacked around 12:45 p.m. Saturday. A grocery cart, one of the pieces of evidence at the scene.
He had his little shopping cart, and a scuffle ensued. They say he put up a good fight.
Officers say the suspect stole the victim's car, a white sedan, and ran over the victim while leaving the scene. Boson might have seen the suspect drive away.
Because when I saw the car, I didn't know to be looking inside the car. I just saw the car pull up, the gate didn't open, he hurried up and went the other way.
Houston police say they found the victim's vehicle dropped off at an apartment complex off of Dunlap Street, about 3 miles away from where the victim was shot and killed. At the first scene, Boson says he overheard residents and the apartment's maintenance crew mourning the man's loss.
World War II veteran, kind, friendly gentleman, always smiling to everybody. It's a shame what happened. It's a retirement community. It's a shame that they look at them as easy targets.
And Houston police did not give a suspect description, but anyone with information is asked to contact police. Reporting live in downtown Troy, Kless, KHOU 11 News.
Tonight, we are learning more about the man killed during a carjacking. His relatives identify him as 90-year-old Nelson Beckett. This happened just before 1 p.m. yesterday outside the Lone Star Assisted Living Complex off Westbury Parkway. Police say Beckett was at his car when a man assaulted him. That man then shot Beckett, took his car, and hit him as he was driving away. That car was later found at an apartment complex on Dunlap. The suspect is still out there. If you know anything, call Crime Stoppers. There is a $5,000 reward for information that leads to an arrest. That number, by the way, is 713-222-TIPS.
This morning, the search continues for the person responsible for killing a 90-year-old veteran over the weekend.
It happened outside the Lone Star Assisted Living Complex off Westbury Parkway in Southwest Houston. And that's where we find Ugochi Iloka live this morning. Ugochi, we understand the family is now speaking out about this tragedy.
Yeah, that's right, Rayka and Steph. Now, they didn't talk on camera, but the son and daughter of 90-year-old Nelson Beckett says their father would do anything for anyone before his life was taken just 2 days ago. If you look at your screen, these are pictures they shared of him. Investigators say a neighbor heard the fight between Beckett and the suspect on Saturday outside the Southwest Houston complex. Now, that neighbor says he heard a single gunshot during that argument, followed by the sound of a car leaving the scene just before Saturday afternoon. Now, investigators say the man hit Beckett with the car, which was described as being a white sedan.
Sad, upset, frustrated. I mean, you're attacking elderly people, middle of the day.
And right now, there's no description of the suspect. Houston police say they did find Beckett's vehicle at an apartment complex off of Dunlap. Now, Dunlap Street, about 3 miles away from where he was shot and killed. Now, anyone with additional information is asked to call police right away. We have more on this coming up in the next half hour. Reporting live in Southwest Houston, Ugochi Iloka, KHOU 11 News.
Very sad story there. Ogochi.
A Southwest Houston community mourning the loss of a 90-year-old Navy veteran murdered over the weekend during a carjacking. Houston police looking for the killer. Ugochi Iloka stopped by the beloved veteran's old neighborhood where he'd lived for decades.
Neighbors say 90-year-old Nelson Beckett was the very first person to buy a house on this block about 40 years ago. Now, he sold it about 2 years ago and moved 9 blocks away from here to a living facility complex where his life was taken just 2 days ago.
My daughters and I went to celebrate his 90th birthday party with his family at the living facility where everything happened.
Miss Robin Patterson says she and her husband, Ronald Patterson, were neighbors to Mr. Nelson for 17 years.
To be the age that he was, the things that he would do, especially cutting his own yard. He would cut his yard every week.
So when the Pattersons heard Saturday an elderly man was shot and killed during an argument outside Lone Star Living Independent Retirement Community where Mr. Nelson lived, they checked in with him.
So I text. And I was like, hey, Mr. Nelson, I heard something happened at your facility. Are you okay? But I never received a text back.
Sadly, investigators say a man who shot Mr. Nelson outside also hit him with the car, which was described as being a white sedan. HPD says the 90-year-old veteran's car was found at an apartment complex on Dunlap Street, less than 3 miles from where the facility is. The Pattersons say he didn't deserve this and that he was so kind to others, including them. They hope anyone with information contacts police.
He'd help a lot of people around here, like a lot of times people may need a ride or something to the store. He'd be there and help you.
He looked out for our home when we would go on vacation.
Yeah, we go on vacation. Yeah, he did. He really did.
He stepped up when my mom passed, my brother passed. He was always there.
Mr. Nelson's son and daughter shared this statement about their dad. They wrote saying, quote, "He was the kindest, funniest man you'd ever meet. He was interested in helping those less fortunate than himself. He had been very active in his church for decades," end quote. Ugochi Iloka, KHOU, 11 News.
Tonight, the family of a Navy veteran killed this weekend is hoping for justice.
Houston police are searching for the man who shot 90-year-old Nelson Beckett in a carjacking at a senior living complex. His family speaking only with our Troy Kless this evening. Troy, what are they telling you?
Well, Len, Mia, they tell me that he has lived here in the Southwest Houston area since at least the 1970s, but he moved to this apartment complex about 2 years ago, and this is where it happened on Saturday. Near that carport that you see past this fence is where Houston police were investigating the shooting. Now, his son told me on the phone earlier today that Nelson lived a life of serving others and called it a senseless death. To his family, Nelson Beckett set an example of service.
He was active in his church. He loved Jesus. He served his country in the Navy. He loved to sing.
On the phone is Nelson's son, Tim. Nelson and his family lived in this Southwest Houston neighborhood. Beyond these streets, he continued to help others.
He would even drive some friends from a halfway house to Panhandle and take them to church on Sundays, and even baptized some of them, and he would do anything for them.
Longtime neighbors Ronald and Robin Patterson say they kept in touch with Nelson even after he moved 2 years ago.
My daughters and I went to celebrate his 90th birthday party with his family at the living facility where everything happened.
This happened at the Lone Star Living Complex on West Bray Parkway. On Saturday afternoon, witnesses say Nelson was getting groceries when an unknown suspect shot him and stole his car, hitting him as he left the scene. When the Pattersons heard the victim was a 90-year-old veteran, they knew something was wrong.
So I text, and I was like, hey, Mr. Nelson, I heard something happened at your facility. Are you okay? But I never received a text back.
Nelson's car was recovered at another apartment complex less than 3 miles away. Now police are searching for the suspect, while family says it's unbelievable their dad is no longer here.
It's just senseless and cruel for someone to do that to someone, a 90-year-old man who never heard of fleeing his life.
And Houston police need your help finding the suspect in this shooting. And this afternoon, Governor Greg Abbott's office announced that the state of Texas is posting a $10,000 reward for information that might lead to an arrest. And Crime Stoppers of Houston is offering their own $5,000 reward for information. And again, if you know anything, you're asked to contact police. Reporting live in Southwest Houston, Troy Kless, KHOU 11 News.
Certainly our feelings and our thoughts go out to the family and that community. Troy, thank you. Of course, we'll closely follow these developments on this story as the search for the killer continues. Hopefully the money being offered will lead to an arrest. Find out more information on our website at khou.com.
And right now there is a search for the man who killed a 90-year-old veteran.
And the reward for information leading to an arrest has now tripled. Family members and friends hope it'll convince someone to talk.
Maria Aguilera joins us live this evening near downtown Houston with the latest in this tragic story. Maria.
Lenmia, this tragic death has moved so many people across the Houston area, now nationwide too. At this time, there is not much information on the suspect. However, the family of the veteran who was killed and the victim advocate I spoke with hope somebody, anyone, will come forward with information.
The search is on for a killer accused of taking the life of a 90-year-old Navy veteran. His death striking a nerve.
Cases like this have a tendency to galvanize the entire city, the entire county, the entire state.
Nelson Beckett was killed during a carjacking in Southwest Houston. Investigators said the man who shot Beckett also hit him with a car described as a white sedan.
At the age of 90, he was contributing to the community and trying to help people in the best way you possibly can, and to have your life end in this fashion, not on our watch.
Andy Kahn with Crime Stoppers says they put in $5,000. Governor Abbott announced an additional $10,000 today. Kahn says in cases like this with limited details on the suspect, a reward can make all the difference, especially because he says someone has to know who did this.
Hopefully now they'll have the courage and the fortitude to step up to the plate, now knowing that there's a reward up to $15,000.
HPD found the car at an apartment complex on Dunlap Street, less than 3 miles from the crime scene.
We're just overcome by sorrow.
His son over the phone said he just spoke with him a few days ago. He says the car, which his dad tragically lost his life over, was used to help others who needed transportation.
He was 90 years old, but he was still driving. So he was driving people to doctor's appointments, to FEMA, to rehab, to stores, etc.
A long life taken in such a cold way.
If he had died in his sleep, he would have lived a full life. But it's just senseless and cruel for someone to do that.
Victim advocates urging people to do what's right. Speak up.
He deserves better. His family deserves answers, and we're going to get them for him.
We're told Mr. Beckett leaves behind 2 children, 5 grandkids, 6 great-grandkids, and 1 on the way. If you have any information, you're asked to contact Crime Stoppers. There is a reward of up to $15,000. You can report anonymously at 713-222-TIPS. Live in downtown Houston, Maria Aguilera, KHOU 11 News.
Maria, thanks for the update. And online right now, more reaction to the murder of Nelson Beckett and the search for the suspect. See it all on KHOU.com.
Justin, more breaking news into the newsroom. Houston police confirming just minutes ago they are questioning someone in connection with the deadly shooting of this 90-year-old Navy veteran in Southwest Houston, which happened over the weekend. Nelson Beckett was killed in a reported carjacking. Governor Abbott even supporting the manhunt for this killer with part of a $15,000 reward. Again, someone is being questioned in that killing right now, but as of yet, no formal charges have been filed.
Tonight, a 21-year-old man is now under arrest for the murder of a 90-year-old Navy veteran during a carjacking on Sunday.
The court documents reveal new details in the immediate aftermath of that shooting.
Troy Kless live downtown with those details, and you have reaction from the victim's son tonight. Troy?
Yeah, well, that's right. Well, here we are expecting in the next 2 hours for the suspect to make an initial appearance in probable cause court. The suspect is here and was arrested on Tuesday and is in the Harris County Jail, which brings some relief to a mourning family. A son called the death of his father, Nelson Beckett, a 90-year-old Navy veteran, senseless and cruel.
Well, we're glad to hear that he he's captured, that the person that was responsible for this is going to be answering.
On the phone is Tim Beckett, here standing next to his father. He's driving from Fort Worth to Houston for his father's funeral. Beckett was a longtime Southwest Houston resident and active member of Southwest Central Church of Christ. He made a life of serving others.
He stayed upbeat. He stayed busy. I mean, he was 90 years old, but he was still driving people around until his night day. So we're proud that he had that kind of heart.
On Saturday, witnesses say Mr. Nelson was making a grocery trip. In court documents, prosecutors say 21-year-old KHOU Arsenault pistol whipped the victim and stole his car and threatened 2 witnesses with a gun before leaving the scene. Court documents say Arsenault dumped the victim's car at an apartment complex. He allegedly attempted to clean his fingerprints and throw away his bloody shirt. Meanwhile, Nelson's son, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren are focused on honoring who they say was a kind man.
Well, we're proud of him. We're proud that that he always had a loving heart and served people all the way to the end. That's what he enjoyed doing.
And the suspect is facing 4 charges, including capital murder. Now, he will formally face a judge on Thursday morning, and we are told that family and friends will be observing Nelson Beckett's funeral on Monday. And once we learn any new details about this case, we'll keep you updated. Reporting live in downtown Troy, Kless, KHOU 11 News.
Very quick arrest in this case, just happening on Saturday. Troy Kless, thank you.
So we learned the man accused of carjacking, then shooting and killing a 90-year-old Navy veteran waived his appearance in probable cause court tonight. 21-year-old KHOU Arsenault is charged with capital murder. Matt Doherty is live outside the courtroom with new details the judge just read out loud this evening. Matt?
Yeah, even though the suspect decided to waive his first appearance, the judge went ahead and told the facts of the case, and here's some of what he said. He said all of this was caught on surveillance video. He said Nelson Beckett, the elderly man, died by a gunshot wound to his lung and trauma from being run over by the car. Court records also show that the suspect was out on bond when all of this happened. 4 days after 90-year-old Navy veteran Nelson Beckett was shot and killed outside of his Southwest Houston assisted living apartment complex, a suspect has been caught. Police say 21-year-old KHOU Arsenault first pistol whipped the elderly man, then shot him, stole his car, and finally ran him over as he sped away. Arsenault allegedly pointed his pistol at 2 others who tried to intervene.
Well, we're glad to hear that he was captured.
We've continued to stay in touch with Nelson Beckett's son, Tim, since shortly after the search for his father's killer first started on Saturday.
He stayed upbeat. He stayed busy. I mean, he was 90 years old, but he was still driving people around until his night day. So we're proud that he had that kind of heart.
Tim Beckett tells us his dad was active in his church and loved to sing. He says his father would spend his day shuttling residents to run errands, the grocery store, appointments. He says his dad loved to laugh and he loved life. Police say they found Beckett's car less than 3 miles from where Beckett was killed. They say Arsenault tried to wipe off his fingerprints on the stolen car and then threw away the bloody shirt he was wearing during the murder. According to Fort Bend County criminal court records, Arsenault was out on bond and awaiting trial, charged with evading arrest for an incident that allegedly happened back in 2022. And we are just now learning that bail has been denied in this case. Back to you.
The very latest from Matt Doherty at the courthouse tonight. Thank you.
Capital murder suspect KHOU Arsenault is set to be back in court this morning. He's accused of killing 90-year-old Navy veteran Nelson Beckett during a carjacking. Katira Winfrey is live for us downtown this morning at the Harris County Courthouse. And Katira, what charges is Arsenault facing right now?
Well, Steph, that suspect is facing multiple charges, including capital murder. The judge read off a long list of accusations, saying the suspect not only killed the victim, but also pointed his gun at 2 people who tried to step in. Now, KHOU Arsenault waived his first probable court hearing last night. He's accused of killing 90-year-old Nelson Beckett. The judge says the whole incident outside Beckett's assisted living apartment in Southwest Houston was caught on camera. The suspect is accused of pistol whipping Beckett, shooting him, stealing his car, and then running him over. The judge said an autopsy showed Beckett died from lung trauma from being shot and trauma from being run over. Now Beckett's family is remembering his life and legacy. His son says even at 90 years old, his father was full of life.
He stayed upbeat. He stayed busy. I mean, he was 90 years old, but he was still driving people around until his dying day. So we're proud that he had that kind of heart.
And the judge says even though the incident was caught on camera, the suspect tried to wipe his fingerprints from the victim's car before abandoning it. Again, the suspect is due in court at 9 o'clock this morning. Reporting live in Houston, Katira Winfrey, KHOU 11 News.
There is new information now in the capital murder case of a 90-year-old veteran. An assistant district attorney says the suspect confessed to the crime, adding he targeted that man because he believed the victim would not put up a fight. Katira Winfrey is at the Harris County Criminal Justice Center with what she's learned.
The judge said the suspect, KHOU Arsenault, is extremely dangerous to the public, calling the allegations atrocious. Prosecutors say Arsenault was watching the victim, 90-year-old Nelson Beckett, just outside of the victim's assisted living apartment. They say the victim was using a walker and that the suspect targeted him because he believed the victim would not put up a fight. They say Arsenault jumped a fence, tried to go through Beckett's pockets before pistol whipping him. When two people tried to intervene, prosecutors say he pointed his gun at them and then continued to pistol whip the victim. Eventually, prosecutors said the suspect shot the victim one time. When the victim fell to the ground, Arsenault is accused of searching the victim's pockets again before taking his car keys. And while backing out of the parking spot, the probable cause says the suspect caused more harm by running the victim over before driving off.
As you can imagine, our hearts just break for his family. Any time that you have such a senseless act of gun violence, it leaves such a trail, such a wake behind it, and there's no reason that this family shouldn't have their loved one with them today.
Authorities say surveillance video captured the initial confrontation, but other surveillance video captured the suspect attempting to wipe off his fingerprints from inside the victim's car and tossing his blood-stained shirt. They also say a gun found on the suspect preliminarily matches the weapon used in the crime. Arsenault is being held on more than $7 million. Reporting in Houston, Katira Winfrey, KHOU 11 News.